What up, Bulls Nation? Peck here. We've got a live CHGO Bulls podcast coming up for y'all right around the corner. Bulls just over 24 hours away from their play-in tournament rematch. Bulls Heat Part 3. We got the whole crew to break it down, previewing the matchup, offensive and defensive tactics, potential X factors, all coming up next. What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into the CHGO Bulls podcast. Coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls _Peck. That's Big Day. Bam! BAWL Sports. Bam! That's four-time NBA champ Will Perdue, Uncle Will _Perdue 32. And the other Will, the GOAT Gottlieb, perfectly coiffed Will _Gottlieb. Queen of the controls, the one and only Katie W. What up, Katie? Pew. No mic, but she's still here. Rocking and rolling. Just hosted the CHGO Sky Draft Recap Show. Give that a watch after today's show.
Great draft.
Are we stoked about the Skies draft? I am.
Great, amazing draft. When they got Haley, I was like, oh, God. Yes. It was,
back together.
It was clearly what they needed last year. I was complaining about it. Like they needed a point guard. Mm-hmm. And then you go get Vandersloot. You know, you get the vet. And now you got Haley who can learn under the vet. You know I love left-handed players, too. On top, man, look, and she's a goon. Mm-hmm. On top of, yes. Incredible pick.
A lot of good things. CHGO Bulls presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use promo code CHGO365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, never ordinary at Bet365. All right, y'all. Bulls Nation, thanks for joining us. Hit that like button. Throw us your thoughts on this Bulls Heat preview. Big matchup. Ooh. All comes down to tomorrow. The Bulls win. They find a way to beat the Heat for the first time in their play-in tournament lives. They advance to face the loser of tonight's Hawks Magic game. What will it take for the Bulls to win that game? That's what we're going to discuss for the next hour. Gentlemen, the Bulls were 3-0 against the Heat in the regular season. Sometimes you say regular season record doesn't mean anything. The 2010-11 Bulls, who were the East 1 seed, swept the Heat in the regular season and then lost to the Heat in 5 in the conference finals. Yeah. That's just one example. However, I do think it does carry more weight that Bulls Heat, their entire regular season series, happened after the Zach LaVine trade. And the Bulls are this team. More or less, you know, like they're missing Lonzo, they're missing Ayo, but I think you can find use in looking at that 3-game sample size.
Yeah, and especially since the last game you played against them was like last week. So it's a perfect sample size about what you can expect from those teams. I don't think you're going to get any real huge changes. I don't know if Jovic is going to be out there or not.
I think most recent Heat injury report has him as questionable.
Okay.
Which was an upgrade from doubtful.
Yeah. So it's not going to be any real super changes for either team. You both saw they both weren't hiding anything from each other. They both were go ahead and say, well, this is our best shot. And Bull said this is our best shot. He tried to take away what they do best. Josh Giddey balled out, though, against them, and they came away with the victory. Maybe Tyler Hero doesn't, go Denzel Valentine again and shoot that 3. But outside of that, I don't think we can expect any real true super change from these two teams, which is a good thing because I think it could be a really, really good game.
Yeah, I think there's a familiarity between these two teams, not only from the previous couple of years where obviously they met 2 times before in the play-in tournament, but as you guys are talking about this year, when the teams have been their most updated and recent versions of themselves. I believe the first game was pre-Jimmy Butler trade. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but the last 2 were after the trade deadline, which means the Bulls have gotten to see Andrew Wiggins in a Heat uniform, and the Heat have gotten to see Josh Giddey and Coby White as they are and as they have been playing. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're looking at a game between 2 very smart head coaches that understand who they're going against. And even though it's not the same team as last year from the Bulls, it's not the same team as last year from the Heat, there's a lot of similarities between those two. And I think that the Bulls are going to try to obviously do what they do well, which is run and get out in transition and score easily. And the Heat are going to do what they want to do, which is try to slow you down, play a lot of zone defense, bog you down, and prevent you from getting into the paint. So very interesting clash of styles here between these two teams. And I think whoever really plays the game on their own terms is going to be the one that probably comes away with it.
That's the last thing you said is just exactly to me who wins this game. Now, when you go back and you look at when I was breaking this down, and you go back and look at these 3 games this season, okay? The game on the 4th, to me, is you throw that out. Okay, that was the first game right after the Zach trade.
Mm-hmm.
So no, Lonzo and Io did play, but you had no Collins, no Herter, and no Jones.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's some outlying circumstances, and Modest had the game of his life, going 10 of 10 from the field, 4 of 4 from behind the arc. Okay, I'm gonna remember that part right there.
Put a pin in.
All right,
Pin is in.
Second thing is the last game, April 9th, in my opinion, is an outlier because Andrew Wiggins had just missed 6 games. He wasn't 100%, and he was coming back from a hamstring injury. So you throw those 2 out. So there's still a third game, and that's the one on March 8th. Okay, Wiggins played, had 22. Giddy obviously had a triple-double. And the Bulls went to the free throw line 26 times. Okay, to me, that was the difference. They were +9 on makes, +7 on attempts. But what this to me is when you put all these numbers together, because these teams are so different in how they like to play, it is basically comes down to what team can play the closest to their personality is the one that's going to win the game. And that to me is what Goat said is how this game breaks out. But what I don't think we can rely on is the Bulls having big fourth quarters. That game on the 8th, they outscored Miami by 16, 36-20. I don't think you're going to have that luxury in the playoffs because this game will slow down at some point. And that's why, to me, that favors the Heat. But all these other aspects, I still truly believe that the Bulls are going to win this game. Because I think when it's all said and done, outside of the discussion we had in regards to, okay, starters, bench, coach, Spo's got something up his sleeve, meaning he's had plenty of time to plan for this game that he will make the necessary changes. And the only reason why, and I stick to the fact that, you know, I'm not going to bet on this game. I don't know what the spread is.
Bulls 1.5 right now, I think.
What's that?
Bulls favored by 1.5 right now.
I think it actually moved down to just 1. So
just 1, okay.
Very tight, basically a pick on.
But I think that because of the makeup of the Miami Heat, they have more room to change as far as how they play this game. Whereas the Bulls are who they are. Second in pace, second in fast break points, 4th in assists, 6th in points per game. They have to get it up in pace. They have to. Because now if I feel like you allow this into a half-court slog fest, this is where the Bulls are now in trouble because, you know, how many options of their offense did they really have because of the fact that they normally play at a fast pace and you slow this thing down and this game is in the 80s, high 80s, low 90s. This is where I think they get into trouble. But again, I want to repeat, I still feel like that they're going to find a way to win this game because, I don't know, it's just Giddy being Giddy and how well he plays against this team. And remember, Coby I just have a feeling he's going to go on a heater tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I think the reason the Bulls did go 3-0 against Miami is because they played to their style in all 3 of those games. Maybe not for a full 48, but for the majority of each of those games. And as you pointed out, Will, when it mattered most, in the fourth quarter. In 2 of those games, even overcoming deficits that were substantial coming into the fourth quarter. And, you know, when you look at the totality of what they did against the Heat this season, Katie, if you have those numbers head-to-head, like nothing is egregious as far as what stands out. Obviously, the Bulls were a bit more efficient shooting from the field, 50% collectively over those 3 games as compared to the Heat's 46. I think a bigger difference, they got to the free throw line almost the exact same amount spanning those 3 games, somewhere between 20 and 21 attempts for the Bulls and the Heat. But the Bulls shot 88.5% from the line to just 74% from the Heat. To me, that's a big difference. When you are also the Bulls dictating the pace in the way that they did. The Heat got the better of the Bulls on the boards. Not a huge shocker there, but the Bulls kept their turnovers down and played at that faster pace. They outscored the Heat in fast break points 18-12 on average spanning those 3 games, while also outscoring Miami in the paint. And as you pointed out in your preview column that y'all should go give a read after today's show, their offensive pace in those 3 games were all above 100 possessions per 48, which is what the Bulls want to be doing against the Heat.
Yeah, and I think, you just mentioned it, Will, that like this kind of narrative or assumption about postseason play of the game slows down, like it's a fact. And I think historically that's probably true. But like if the Bulls are going to try to win this game, they're going to have to disprove that. They're going to have to not let the game slow down because, to your point, they can't win that way. That's not who they are. That's not how they succeed. And in fact, I think the fact that they're able to play so fast masks a lot of their weaknesses. And so when you get bogged down, now you've got to create in the half court. Now you're going against zone. The driving lanes aren't there. You got to shoot over the top off the dribble. Like none of that stuff is what the Bulls do well. They do well when they are beating teams down the court after makes and misses, when they are getting behind the defense, getting easy shots at the rim, and collapsing the defense and spraying it out for threes. So that is who the Bulls have to be. I think it's going to be a challenge. I don't know if it's going to work, but I know the Bulls are going to try. And that's what we talked about with Billy and with Giddy today at practice. Like, they can't let this turn into a traditional slow it down postseason game because, to your guys' point, like that's who the Heat are. That's how you lose to a team that's playing their style.
Well, sorry to interrupt, Dave, but I just want to see if you guys can help me out with this. Who for the Bulls, when necessary, if there's going to be a period throughout this game where the Heat grasp this game by the nuts and control the tempo. It's going to happen. Okay. And my question is that who do the Bulls have that have the ability on an ISO situation to break guys down? Because that was either DeMar or that was Zach.
Dave, would you say that Coby White is that answer now?
Well, that's kind of what I was going to say on this one is I think the Bulls played the Heat style that last game because the Heat took away their guy who could break it down, which was Coby White, and the person who was doing it for him was Josh Giddey.
Yep.
He was the one doing it to him. So I watched the Bulls win their kind of way when they played in Miami and they won their kind of way, and then I watched them play the Heat kind of way and still get the victory out there, even though the Heat taking away what they want, slowing the Bulls down, making them be more of a half-court kind of team. One thing I noticed, though, is the ball never stopped moving when it came to that. When they were in the half court, that ball was constantly moving around and trying to find whoever was open. It's a credit to Billy Donovan. It's a credit to the players out there. But to answer that, Will, yeah, in this one, I don't think they have a set guy. And that's why Josh Giddey just said, well, I'll just be that guy today. And he went ahead and did his thing. And also Kevin Huerter was also huge for them. Also in that game, in that very first quarter, he kind of, got the pace and the tempo kind of started for them. But I think it will be by committee, for them. So I don't think there is any one person they can lean on because the Heat already told you, whatever you like to do, we're going to take it away. We're going to get rid of that. Whether it's just one player or one style, we'll take it away. What can you do after that? That's why this last game I thought was so big for them to win and the way that they won it. So we'll see how it goes and just how more important it is, to the Bulls to win in any kind of style. But they should feel really, really good with how they beat the Miami Heat because they have not been fluke victories. They have been like for real deal, straight up, oh, no, we just beat you in your style and our style on your floor and on our floor.
The way that the Bulls have been running successfully once it was sort of post Levine and Giddy and Coby leading that offensive charge, I do think that, to your point, like, we will see, and Perdue, you just said, like, at some point the Heat will throw some sort of wrench in what the Bulls are trying to do offensively, whether that's going to the zone, which, you point out in your column, Spo does more than any other NBA coach in the league. Like 20% of the time they're playing his own defense. And we've seen that, upset the Bulls' flow at times. But can they still battle through those moments of inconsistencies or struggling with the Heat's defensive adjustments to keep the pace up at all times, after makes and after misses? Because if they just let themselves fall into, oh, this is a really tight game, we're tightening the screws, Miami's, battening down the hatches, so we have to do the same. If the Bulls start thinking that way, then they lose the pace, and then they get in trouble. We'll put a pin in that because we got to knock out some ads when we come back. Plenty more previewing this Bulls Heat play-in tournament game tomorrow. The Bulls' offensive and defensive mindset coming into this one, and some X factors. Hit that like button while you're listening to some ads. Today's show brought to you by our fine friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. What is Sunnyside? It's your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer, and that's right, summer is coming.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel it. Oh, my goodness. Sunnyside is Illinois' favorite dispensary with locations in the city, locations at Wrigleyville and River North. Shout out to the Wrigleyville location. I was there not that long ago.
Flex.
All the way throughout the suburbs, even as far south as Champaign, as far north as South Beloit. If you are just starting out, Sunnyside has expert guidance and brands that they know you'll love, like Good News and Mindy's. Even if you're a pro, they have got you covered and can help you even further with over 100 different strains to choose from on their menu. New ones added daily, and expertly curated wellness advisors staff picks collection, so they can tell you, hey, this is the one that you should try on this visit. They know you'll love Cresco and FloraCal's incredible quality and consistent products. Also, check out those Good News brand gummies. They are my personal favorite. Visit Sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first, not one, not two, but 3 online purchases. Just use promo code HICHGO when you check out to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day. Only for 21 and older and Illinois MedCard holders.
Empire today.
Floors.
Oh, what?
Floors.
Huh?
Floors.
No matter what. That's what they do. Because just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home team needs a home floor advantage. Oh, yeah. And Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. Now, we all been to the big box stores. Where to go Gottlieb sometimes has to go in there because he has to pick up some stuff. He's a do-it-yourself guy.
He's an adult.
He's a grown man.
Adulting.
Oh, yeah, that's what he does. And then when he said, oh, man, there goes the floor department. You know what? I'm thinking about getting some floors in. Let me go down there and look. And he's looking around, and it's a ghost town. Nobody's there to help. But then the head pops up, and he says, hello, sir, do you need something? He's like, no, Biff, I don't need anything from you. Will you please go back inside? But I'm here in the floor department to help you. Well, let me ask you a question about floors. No, I don't know anything. I'm running away now. I'm only 15. I don't know floors. Then why are you here, Biff? You have upset the GOAT. He could have did this at home. That shop at home convenience is what you can get from Empire Today because they live and breathe flooring, and they will be with you through every step of the way. Pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space. See how it looks with your furniture in your house. Get precise measurements taken and have all your questions answered so there'll be no surprises and no woozies and no wazies. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So schedule a free in-home estimate today because there are some things that are just better at home. CHGO listeners, that's you guys, you can receive a $350 discount when you're using that promo code CHGO. Yes, you heard it right. A $350 discount with that code CHGO. Restrictions apply. Visit Empire Today /CHGO for full details. 580 to 300. Perdue!
Empire Today.
There it is.
Woo! That was a nice one. Team effort.
Team.
Rolling along, CHGO Bulls podcast, our Bulls Heat play-in tournament preview episode. Hit that like button. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. So we're talking about how the Bulls can try and dictate the pace of this game for their offense to thrive. And, Giddy just he averaged a 26-point triple-double in his 3 games against Miami. That is clearly okay, maybe you can slow down Coby White or even slow down Coby White for 3 quarters, which is what they managed to do back on April 9th. Mm-hmm. But they just let Giddy cook. If you're Spo, and if you're maybe Billy trying to get in the mind of Spo coming into this one, do you think that is an adjustment that Spo makes to say, all right, we have to be prioritizing taking away Josh Giddey because Josh Giddey killed us in these games?
Yeah, I mean, he's the head of the snake. We hear it from every single coach that comes into town. We ask them how they're game planning for the Bulls, and they say it starts with Coby and it starts with Giddy. Those guys getting downhill. Obviously, Coby can do it from beyond the arc too, but that's what generates everything for the Bulls offense. And so if I'm Spo, I'm selling out to keep them out of the paint because I think if you make the Bulls a jump shooting team without first collapsing the defense and spraying it out, that's just not going to go well for them. So if I'm Spo, I'm going triangle and 2, basically. I'm saying, bam, you are face guarding Giddy full court. You are hassling him. You are bigger than him. You are stronger than him. You are going to keep him out of the paint. And same thing for Wiggins. You're bigger and longer than Coby. You're going to, just make life difficult on these guys all night. And then we're going to park Khalil Ware by the rim. And if they break you down, finish over the top, spray it out. But we are not giving away the paint because that's where you get everything. And so we actually saw that in the last game against the Heat a little bit. Bam started on Giddy, and Giddy was just blown right by him. So I don't know if that will work, but that's where I'm starting if I'm Spo. I think same for Wiggins and Coby. It's like you have to try to turn those guys off because I just don't know where the Bulls are generating offense if they can't first get those guys the ball going downhill. That's really what starts it all, and so I'm selling out to take that away.
But I also think to take that one step farther, to try to affect and improve their defense, I think what you're going to see is whoever Giddy is guarding is going to be the screener on the screen roll.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to want to try to get a switch, and then they want to try to get Giddy into foul trouble to get him off the floor. Because now if they get him off the floor, that is a significant drop in talent for the next guy that comes on.
And yeah, I mean, Giddy getting into foul trouble early would obviously be a huge problem for the Bulls. But on the opposite end of that, sometimes we see officiating crews call playoff or postseason games a little bit differently, sometimes a little bit tighter. One of the other things, along with the fast pace and paralleled with the fast pace of Coby and Giddy primarily, is the two of them getting the free throw line in a lot of these games that they won down the stretch of this season. Do we think they can still rely on that being a part of their offensive strategy if, Giddy's hounded by Bam, Wiggins is chasing Coby all over the place? Even we saw Mitchell giving Coby some fits in that game last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Do we think Bulls have home court? Coby and Giddy have been getting a lot of calls recently.
Yeah.
Are those calls still there for them in this playoff game?
That's a great question. And I do think that will be answered very early because that's exactly what the Bulls are going to try to do, especially with Coby White. He definitely tries to draw some fouls out there. Josh Giddey, too. That's part of his game, is getting to the paint and not really having a shot once he gets there. But when he gets there, tossing something up, trying to draw a foul from the officials. So we'll find out very, very early if that's going to be the case, especially, Matt, and you mentioned perfectly Davion Mitchell, because he's an aggressive defender. And so if they're going to allow him to play up on Coby and, annoy him and be in his jersey like that, it might be a tough night for Coby. If that whistle was quick and the referees want to, quote unquote, gain control of the game, then you'll see that whistle come out pretty early against these teams. But as far as what I can recall, I don't remember the refs being a huge part of this series when the Bulls have played the Miami Heat. They kind of have just let those guys play and do their thing. But going forward, we'll see. I don't expect it to be that, being as both these teams kind of know each other and as the refs kind of understand what these teams are and what they like to do. I don't foresee them being a huge factor early on. In that fourth quarter, if it's tight, I think you'll see those calls change a little bit and the refs won't let you be as physical with that. But yeah, it just makes it a more exciting thing to watch in this postseason game.
And it's on, I think, Coby and Giddy to really take command of that and put pressure on the refs to get those calls, right?
Yeah.
I think both of those guys have done such a good job of driving and getting into the paint and drawing contact and finishing through it, where it's like you're forcing the refs to have to make decisions. And I think if you start the game where you're not getting those calls, you can't be deterred by that to where you stop driving. They need to continue to do that and continue to put pressure down there because, again, that's their identity. That's where everything stems from for them. And so if they give that up or they can't get that, I do think it will be a challenge.
And Perdue, the big man, is also a really interesting part of this equation for the Bulls because we've talked about how Vuce had a little 2-week malaise there, pouting about the trade deadline and him still being here. And then he shook that off and, showed up to work and was big for the Bulls over their last few weeks of the season. And if we're talking about, Vuce has proven, even as an old, veteran center, that he's still willing to run with the Bulls when they want to run and has been very effective as a trailing center at times, hitting those threes from the top of the key in those situations. But if the Heat do manage to throw some zone looks and slow the Bulls down to a half court, then Vooch becomes, I think, even more important when you're talking about how the Bulls can find good looks in a half-court scenario and him being the fulcrum of those offensive sets.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, as we're talking about this, and we'll get to X Factor, and fans are talking about it. I think depending on what the Heat do, the X Factor could change, right? Because
for the Heat,
no, for the Bulls, because if they implement a zone a majority of the time, then the X Factor becomes Vooch.
Mm-hmm.
His ability to make the right reads and find the open guy on the top of the offense. His ability to find the open area, which is usually around the free throw line, catch and shoot quickly before the defense can adapt. And then if he knocks down a couple shots, then they adjust, and then he becomes a facilitator after the fact he's already been a scorer and scored 6 or 8 straight. He becomes the X factor if they play a lot of zone, because that means they want to extend, try to keep Coby and Giddy and, prevent these guys from getting open threes. They want to be able to contest, but also, as he talked about, close down the paint. I mean, they're trying to do a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, then, crisp passing becomes an aspect of it. And what's, Achilles' heel of this team occasionally is they have a tendency to get a little sloppy with the basketball, especially now in the playoffs where every possession counts and you have to minimize empty possessions. A turnover is empty possession because you didn't get a shot up at the rim. But to go back to what you mentioned, Matt, or you brought it up, Dave, if they allow this game to be physical, now the Bulls are in trouble because of the fact that when officials go into a game, it's just human nature, right? They know the reputation of the Miami Heat is a physical style game.
Yeah.
So what they see the Miami Heat do and allow will not necessarily be the same for the Bulls, because then it's, if the Bulls try to match the physicality, that's when you see them getting into foul trouble and put the Heat in the bonus early, because that's just not the reputation of the Bulls. So this is why, as Goat talked about, they have to make every attempt, and that's up to Coby, that's up to Giddy. Even at the beginning of the game, if they take some bad shots, of just pushing the pace to get shots up at the rim, because sometimes when you're going through a funk, your best shot is a missed shot. Because the one area that the Bulls have had some success is rebounding. They were +7 in the game on April 9th. I told you some of these other games didn't matter, but some of the things is, they were +7 in the game on March 8th. And then they were, -1 in the game on the 4th. But they've had the ability to have that advantage of, rebounding. And then that's where I'm talking about the X factor changes, because then, when you bring Smith in off the bench, what's one of his biggest traits is offensive rebounds for second chance opportunities. Because you look at his numbers and you're like, 10 points? When did he score 10 points? And then you see, well, he had 6 rebounds, but 5 of them were offensive. So all of a sudden, a guy that you think probably is not going to have much of an impact on this game, all of a sudden his role becomes huge.
And on top of the offensive boards, Dave, we were talking about Jalen just the other day. Like he has games where he gets hot.
Yeah,
his 3-point shot efficiency fell drastically from last season with Indiana to this season with the Bulls, but he still does have some of those hot games. And you talk about where outside of Coby, Josh, and Vooch you're going to get contributions. We talked about Io having a big game in one of their wins over Miami earlier this season. That March game, Trey Jones went off for 15, 5, and 5. Which of the role players will step up? In that win on February 4th, Jalen was a part of a collection of Bulls role players. Between him, Modest, and Pat, those 3 went 8 of 13 from downtown. Especially when you're talking about having to shoot over a zone defense occasionally, Goat. Like, which of these role players are going to be like ready and willing to say, hey, this is the best look we're going to get on this possession. I got to rise and fire.
Yeah, I think Herter is an example of somebody who could be really effective. We saw him score 22 in that last game. I think a lot of it is, you talked about picking out matchups. Hero was the one that was guarding Herter. And so the more you can put Hero in action, make him defend, make him chase, one, I think you're going to get some good looks, but 2, it's going to tire him out on the other end. And
speaking of the Bulls win over the Heat just this past week, Herter, Modest, and Dalen combined to shoot 9 of 17 from downtown in that game. The one game where the Bulls as a team were ugly from the arc was that March 8th game that they still managed to win 11 of 42 from 3. But even in that game, Zach Collins, role player, 4 of 6 from downtown. They'll need some combination of those role player guys to knock down shots. We got to take another break. When we come back, let's dive into what the Bulls should be looking at as far as a defensive strategy against this Heat team. They got to take care of Hero and Bam. You wrote about that 2-man game in your preview. We can break down that and more on the other side of this break. Hit the like.
Giddy, what time is it?
She doesn't have a mic, but she said game time hoot.
Game time hoots. I like. She went up with the hoot. Never down with the hoot. Always up. Game time picks makes it easier than ever to get tickets to see your favorite teams play live. Why? Because it filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier than ever to save on more sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you want to see. Save more seeing it with Game Time. Of course, they got the all-in pricing. Of course, they got the lowest price guarantee. Of course, they got the Game Time ticket coverage, which comes with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. But of course, they got the Matt and Big Day favorite, the seat views. Where are we sitting? Where are we stretching? Where are we drinking? Can I drink with the right hand because somebody's not here? Can I drink with the left hand because somebody's not here? Can I just be double-fisted? What can I do out here? How about it? How about, hey, where's the bathroom? Hey, where's the exit? All these things we need to know. These are vital things for us. And guess what? You can get it all answered with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use that code CHGO. Get yourself $20 off your first purchase.
Terms apply.
I said CHGO. Get yourself $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Get on Game Time today. Because what time is it?
Game time hoot.
That boy's ready.
CHGO Bulls also brought to you by Sam Adams American Light. Light beer just got better, y'all. Introducing Sam Adams American Light. It's clean, it's crisp, it's super easy to drink. I am sad that there aren't any in our fridge right now.
Those are
if there were, I'd be drinking them. Mm-hmm. No gimmicks, no fluff. Sam Adams American Light is not your average light beer. It's brewed with 100% American source ingredients from local independent farmers. That makes it light beer that's made right. It's an American classic so smooth you'll want to crack open another one, and then another one, and then another one. And it's available in select Chicago retailers, so when you're thinking about, all right, what do I need as a Bulls fan to get ready to watch this big winner-go-home game against the Heat tomorrow? You're going to the store? Check out if that store has some Sam Adams American Light. Shout out to our friends Westwood Market. They got it.
They got it.
They got it at the Marianos in my neighborhood.
They got it.
They got it there too. What are you waiting for? Light beer made right. Light beer just got better. It's always Sam season with Sam Adams American Light. So grab some now at your Chicago select retailers. Must be 21 and older, and please 21. Do drink responsibly.
Yes.
All right, y'all. So when we talk about the defensive side of the ball for this Bulls Heat matchup, obviously without the Jimmy Butler factor, the playoff Jimmy factor, you think this is not as difficult of a test, not as much on the Bulls defensive plate, but still plenty of weapons that can hurt you.
Yeah.
Starting, of course, with that first-time All-Star Tyler Hero and his running mate Bam Adebayo, who averaged 21 a game against the Bulls in his 3 appearances for them this season. Mm-hmm. So let's start with what you were talking about in your column, that the pick and roll situations, some DHO situations where Hero can kill you from outside. Hero can swerve his way inside. And if Bam is having an efficient night, and look, Bam did not have a great game this past Wednesday. He missed a lot of bunnies around the rim that I can recall, but there are a lot of different ways that just that 2-man tandem for starters can hurt the Bulls.
Yeah, they do such a good job of dribble handoffs with, whether it's Duncan Robinson, Max Strus historically, just getting guys on the move, where we talk a lot about for the Bulls creating system baskets. A lot of what the Heat do is built on that. But Hero has taken his game to another level. He had 30 points in the last game on 50% shooting. When he is in action, it's very difficult to keep him out of the paint, especially when they're targeting some of the Bulls' weaker defenders, right? Like they're trying to put Vucevic and Giddy or Coby or any of these guys into action to make them work, but also because they feel that they have an advantage. And I think that's part of why they slow things down, right? They like to really, methodically look at the pieces on the chessboard and pick out the matchups that they like and go at them. And so I think that's a really dangerous thing. It will slow the game down and hopefully not take the Bulls out of what they want to do. Mm-hmm. But I think it can be really useful and effective for them, especially if they're able to get Hero going early. So I think just those screening actions are going to be really a challenge for the Bulls to decide how they want to defend. Do you pull back and drop and just dare Hero to make a bunch of mid-range twos, pull-ups. Like those are shots that he can make, but they're not necessarily like high-level efficient offense. But if the game is slowed down and there aren't a lot of possessions, maybe that works for the Heat. Maybe that's even better for the Heat. If you try to meet him at the level of the screen, now if you don't get back quick enough, you're giving Bam the pocket where he can play, make, and create or get a runway to the rim. That's what he does well. If you are, trying to double, then you're leaving guys open. So there's always a trade-off. And I think the Bulls are going to have to decide early what works and just not show them the same thing too many times to where they can really figure it out. Maybe the Bulls go to a lot of zone themselves. They've been doing that a lot more recently. I think that could be something that is useful. But again, you are going to give something up to the Heat. And if it's a night where Hero just makes like 7 out of 9 mid-range jumpers, that could be it. That's the crazy part about these single elimination variance games. It's like anything could happen and all of a sudden that's it. That's your season. And
Purdue, like we know that Vooch has never been a rim protecting kind of big. They play him in this sort of like quasi, Billy even has talked about it, like it's a drop, but it's not really a drop kind of defense. And so like how important does it become then as somebody who, was coached by, Johnny Bach, one of the brilliant defensive minds of the NBA, like the 5 guys on a string kind of element to this and, wing defenders and rotations and help defense and guys rotating to closeouts when Vooch is going to be in a lot of those actions and kind of like left out to dry, trying to prevent those scenarios.
I mean, he's going to rely on those guys to cover his ass. At the end of the day, the Bulls' defense is average at best. I mean,
that's putting it kindly, yeah.
What was their ranking? Do you know?
On the season, I think they still were in the bottom third, but they were more respectable after the All-Star break.
Yeah,
right.
The season-long net rating was 18th, which is actually better than you'd think. But then after All-Star break, 7th. So they were very effective. And I think covering what you said about just guys pulling in from the weak side and trying to help take away the pain is a big reason why.
But I think their effort was also a lot better.
Yep.
Yeah.
In this,
true.
In that last half of the season because of the fact of now with no Zach, I think a lot of guys felt like they had something to prove because I've been on a lot of teams that have made trades and guys take stuff like that personally because now the team goes, once the trade is made, so let me back up. So until the trade was made, you had uncertainty. And I think that was where you saw the ups and downs, lose 7 in a row, win 3 in a row. Because every day, I can promise you, the first thing guys did was, well, everybody's still here so far.
Right,
all right,
yeah.
I'm going to practice, right? And you knew Zach was supposed to be traded. There was a possibility Vooch was going to be traded. It's kind of like, you're kind of like lame duck coach, right? Dead man walking. So at what point was this how this team looked going to change? And then once it happened is when you really start to see this team elevate. And unfortunately for Zach, this isn't about him. This is just about other guys, in my opinion, taking it personally and showing a lot of pride in how they played after that trade was made. Because now they know this team's going to be broken down into the nth degree about, all right, now we finally got this trade off the books. What does this team look like and where do we go from here? Mm-hmm. And all these guys, because one of the things that you talk about is don't be the weak link.
Mm-hmm.
And guys started to take it personally about, hey, I'm not going to be the weak link. It ain't going to be me. Mm-hmm. Perfect example is there an explanation about how this team goes from 18th to 7th outside of just their – because let me ask you, you're at every home game. We're watching on TV.
Flex.
Did you see anything different in their schemes?
They definitely played a lot more zone. I think that helped keep teams out of the paint. I think I want to credit Giddy. Like he, I think, really buckled down and became a much better defender in the second half. And when you see the weak link doing that, I think that makes everybody else try to level themselves up. And then also, as we've talked about before, I think just getting some good 3-point shooting luck. I don't remember the exact end of season numbers, but the Bulls were giving up, some of the highest amount of threes to their opponents.
And the corner, lowest, a lot of the time too.
And the corner. And the lowest percentage on those threes, right? So
particularly opponent fourth quarter shooting numbers were like wildly low.
Exactly. Teams were taking a ton of threes and not making very many of them at all. And that was exacerbated in the fourth quarter when the Bulls were running teams off the court and they couldn't come back and make threes on the other end. So I think it was all these things, but you do also have to credit, to your point, Will, like these guys were trying a lot harder. They were just playing better. And I think that goes a really long way too. I mean, that leads to some of those numbers, I think, in a lot of ways.
Dave, so when you talk about like weak link, refusing to be the weak link, as Uncle Will was just talking about, and knowing that Giddy could very likely be targeted by Spo, it's like whoever is Giddy's man, that's who we're calling up to bring into all of these, screen actions. What, like, as somebody who's been trying to be as fair and objective as impartial with evaluating Giddy on both ends of the floor this season, and I agree, we've seen Giddy make some strides effort-wise on the defensive end, and even, I will say, competence-wise on the defensive end at times, but we also can see that he gets
Are you talking about yourself or Dave?
Myself? No, I'm saying Dave has been fair. I have been,
okay, so you're
I
talking
think,
about
also
Dave.
fair, but like...
Okay, when I heard the unbiased thing,
I have
like,
an
what?
agenda, and that's just like, I'm not a big Giddy fan. But, Dave, what is your level of optimism or confidence, I would say, in knowing that Spo's going to try and target Giddy and how he will work through that?
I actually have solid confidence in Josh Giddey on this one, strictly because of what Will mentioned, which was the effort. It's my favorite thing is effort. And Josh Giddey and Will's like, everybody should have it. But unfortunately, it's not like that anymore.
Motor, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, the motor. That's what it is. It's motor.
Is a skill.
Motor, yes. But Josh Giddey's effort has been really outstanding, especially, this second half of the season for them. And I think this kind of game where it's winner take all and he knows what's on the line, the focus will be a little bit different for him. And we don't know also how hurt that wrist is that he has. So he's going to have to hang his hat on something else out there just in case the wrist isn't great. You're going to have to hang your hat on something else out there, and it's going to have to be on the defensive end. So whether he's helping on another defender or whether he's telling guys where to be, or him himself knowing exactly where to be, or not switching on a defender or staying with one and making life tough, a little bit tougher for the little defenders that he might have to be out there on the perimeter on. I think he'll do a solid job. I honestly do. I don't think he'll be super terrible, but I know Erik Spoelstra will damn sure come at him, and he will target him and try to put him in terrible situations where he probably will get a little flustered or something like that. But from what I've seen from Josh Giddey, just as far as what he's done this second half of the season, as far as defensively, I have pretty solid confidence that he'll be okay.
Can I just echo that? I want to say one more thing about Giddy, because if you're on the Oklahoma City Thunder and you're playing with Lou Dort, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you got Chet Holmgren behind you, like, that team is a defensive juggernaut. Even before they got Alex Caruso, they had Case and Wallace.
Say Caruso yet?
I'm talking about last year. Like, they had Case and Wallace. They had, Aaron Wiggins. Like, they just have so many guys that, like, Giddy was the obvious person to pick on. And he's not playing as much with the ball in his hands. I think that was shaking his confidence. He's got to stand in the corner a little bit more. That's not comfortable for him. When he's got the ball in his hands, he feels comfortable. When he's able to play the way that he wants to play, which is the way that the Bulls are built to play, he feels more comfortable. And I think that energizes him to play better defense. So not only is, I think that stuff synergistic in the sense that, like, through playing more confidently and better on the offensive end, that inspires him to play better and more confidently on the defensive end. I think also this is not a team like the Thunder where you're just like littered with great defensive options around you. Giddy's not the primary guy that I think teams are going to pick on here. You have Coby, who is statistically not a good defensive player. I think he also works really hard. He's stronger than I think people would assume for a guard his size. He works, but like, he is he could be considered a weak link. You've got Vooch out there in pick and rolls. Teams are going to go at him. Modest, I think, very good weak side rim protector. Really struggles on the ball, like guiding the ball handler to the help behind him. He needs to work on that, and I think he will get better. But all that to say, not to like tear anybody down, it's just that they don't have 3 defensive player of the years next to this guy to insulate him to where he's the easy option. And I think it's a little bit harder to, or I just don't think they're going to pick on him as much because they have other options, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Other options to pick on, is that what you're saying? Okay, gotcha.
We got to knock out a couple more ads. When we come back, I do want to put, kind of round out the defensive strategy conversation and talk about Billy Donovan's role in that. And then we can get to our official picks for who the X Factor will be in this do or die game. Hit that like button. Thanks for hanging out with us. Here's some ads. We'll be right back.
In your face.
Prize picks.
Prize picks.
Y'all, have you signed up yet? If not, what are you waiting for? Sign up with Prize Picks today to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win that first $5 lineup to receive your $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Either way, Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. Boom! We got play-in tournament games.
Yes.
Make your
Fever.
Taco Tuesday picks. Prize Picks discount select players' projections up to 25% to provide even more value for those lineups. Prize Picks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you have to do is just pick more or less on at least 2 different player stat projections for the game that you are gearing up to watch that night for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long, all playoffs long with Prize Picks. Just download that Prize Picks app today, and don't forget to use promo code CHGO to get that incredible $50 instantly offer after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's promo code CHGO, downloading the Prize Picks app. $50 when you make your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Also, must give a shout out to my main man, Ray.
Ray, what's Ray up to?
Oh, he's chilling.
Chilling?
You know what I mean? He hit me up the other day, actually. Yeah, he's good. Everything's
Nice.
good. He's always, want to talk basketball and all those things. And that's my guy. Shout out to him, man. But he also runs an awesome business. Ray Auto Chevy. Because we're spring cleaning at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. Come in and get fresh savings during our spring clearance sales event, like 0% financing for 60 months, $0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, plus 0 hidden fees on select new Chevy models. It's a lot of zeros, and it's a good thing. Or check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find the perfect vehicle for yourself. And as one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're able to keep their prices competitive, so you will always get a great deal. Plus, they got that raised price promise, y'all. It lets you shop confidently because a guarantee of no add-ons and no hidden fees, no gimmicks, no woozies, and no wazies ever means the price that you see is the price that you're going to pay. You don't have to worry about price changing, stressful negotiating, or any tricks. The people at Ray Chevrolet just want to help you get into the right vehicle at the right price. So go see it for yourself. Visit our partner at their convenient location right on Route 12 in Fox Lake. And don't miss out on their spring clearance sales event going on all month long. For 0% financing on select new Chevy models. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com because they've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
Shout out to our guy Colin in the comments who said, every time you hit the like button, an angel gets its wings.
Oh.
I've heard that's factually accurate.
Yeah. Scientifically.
Katie can't confirm. Hit that like button, y'all. Okay, also, so Tiago Giuliano in the comments saying, Bulls have been able to recover in games, whether that comes from the team or from Billy Donovan's adjustments. Speaking of, what the Bulls will have to try to slow down with this Heat offense, you mentioned that Billy has one of the things they have done differently down the stretch is he has thrown some zone in there more so than he was beginning of this season. If the Bulls are struggling because Spo has hit some of the right buttons in the first half of this game, and they are picking on Josh Giddey or are picking on Coby White and doing so efficiently, Perdue, at what point, if you are Billy Donovan, because Bulls fans, one of their biggest critiques of Billy Donovan over the years has been his lack of in-game adjustments, whether making them at all or making the correct ones. At what point, if you're Billy, do you press the break glass in case of emergency, let's go to zone, because the Bulls' man defense is getting picked apart by Spo?
I mean, if it happens in the first quarter, you got to do what you got to do. There is no, let's work our way into this. If you see 3 straight trips down the floor where Miami scores, I think you see, regardless of what the score is.
Right.
Bulls, could be up 10. Miami comes down and scores 3 straight times. You're still up 4. You just tell them to walk it up. Now, you're fine. But I think that's where you see Billy call a timeout and make a change. And you can also do it doing a free throw. Billy's infamous for let him shoot one and then call a timeout and split the free throws.
Loves that move.
But you don't have the luxury in this game of saying, hey, let's give it a few more minutes. If it's not working, it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could change. And the thing is, Miami's been working on it. So say you go to a zone and their ball movement is outstanding and they knock down a couple threes, well, then you got to call another timeout and figure out, okay, the man hasn't worked. The zone hasn't worked. We're only up 2 because the pace is to our liking, but they're starting to knock down shots in the half court. What do we do? So what's plan C? Plan C could be the old computer program, go back to line 1. Okay, go back to man. But if they run a screen roll, now we're going to jump. We're going to double the ball, take the ball out of that person's hands, pre-rotate, right? Meaning you slide over, grab the guy that rolls down the lane early, and then see if they can make that pass all the way over the top of the defense and find the guy in the opposite corner. But because of the length of the pass, you should be able to get to the man by the time he catches the basketball. But that, again, requires all 5 guys to be on the same page, because there's been a lot of times as of late, you've seen a good defensive possession for 18 of the 24 seconds, and then all of a sudden there's a breakdown and then 2 guys look at each other. That's why, there's the famous comment of Thibodeau about it's not the first effort and the second effort, it's about the 4th effort, the 5th effort, the 6th effort, of guys just constantly being on a string and rotating.
Mm-hmm. And especially for a game that could be as tight as it is, some of those, not just, rotations, but when you're talking about 3rd, 4th, 5th efforts, can the Bulls be the team that win more 50-50 balls, loose balls, make those extra hustle plays? Because we've seen everybody, even down to the last man of, old man vet Vooch, in that win over the Heat last Wednesday, diving on the floor for loose balls. If the margin is slim and the Bulls' margin for error is slim and they can really play one way to give themselves a real shot at winning this game, can they, on top of that, be the team that has the out-hustle you, especially with an opponent like Miami? Most people would say it's hard to out-hustle Miami on any night-to-night basis.
I think they did out-hustle them and out-execute them and win on the margins in that last game.
I agree.
They outdid them from the free throw line in both attempts and makes. They had plenty of backdoor cuts from Giddy that just were complete defensive lapses.
Correct.
I don't think that, it's possible that the Heat are just not as disciplined as we think. I don't know that that's the case, though. I wouldn't bet on it. And so I think you're going to run into a Heat team that is a lot more prepared to take away those things. And I think that just requires you to lean even more into that pace and, moving the ball up the court quickly. And Billy was careful today to not say this doesn't mean we just have to shoot in 7 seconds. This is not 7 seconds or less Suns. It's we need to make quick decisions. We need to drive quickly. We need to get off the ball if it comes to us and we don't have a play, and just keep the ball moving. It doesn't necessarily have to be, can we score in transition after a made shot every single time down? Although that's great. It's just, can we continue to play our style and keep that advantage alive? Because that's where you get teams in trouble. I don't care how good a defensive team they are. If you keep moving the ball around and you're rotating and scrambling out there, oftentimes the offense will win because it's very hard to keep up with that.
All right, so before we get to our X Factor picks, let's get a few from our fellow Bulls fans in the comments. Andrew McKay saying, X Factor is a twofer. Dalen Terry and Julian play well enough to keep Billy from leaning on Pat too much. Bull Zone saying, Modest is the key to beat the Heat. I hope Miami decides to double Coby or Giddy because this Bulls team is going to make them pay. Paul Sorensen, X Factor is all who can keep the heart, probably mean Heat, busy enough. Our hearts will be busy enough as Bulls fans. Keep the Heat busy enough to not be able to focus on Coby and Josh. So we got some people saying Dalen, people saying Julian, people saying Modest. The X Factor for this game. Dave. Who or what is your X Factor for this game?
Well, let's do it both ways. Let's do the Bulls. Because what's weird about the Bulls and the Heat is they both have a ton of X Factors on their team.
Yeah.
The Bulls in this one, I think it could easily be a guy like Kevin Huerter, who, if he's going crazy from 3, like he was in that previous game, it resolves and, solves a lot of issues that the Bulls might be having offensively going against that Heat kind of defense, because there's no defense for a 3-point shooter that's hot like that. So if he gets that going, that could be the X factor for them as well. I think you mentioned earlier about Jalen Smith, and I'll throw Zach Collins in there too as those guys. Those guys could be an X factor for the Heat as well. Because, again, you got Bam Adebayo, you got Khalil Ware down there, but Bam is more of a guy who roams. He can guard 1 through 5. So it could be possessions where he's taking the point guard or the 2, and Khalil Ware is down there. He's still a rookie, y'all. You know what I mean? So they could attack that and maybe get him in foul trouble because Jalen Smith is really good at drawing fouls. And I think Collins is a really good rebounder also as well. So I think those guys can be X factors for the team, and that can help them. But as far as like the Heat, I think guys like Davion Mitchell and I think guys like Alec Burks, and the biggest X factor for me, as I've said 1,000 times, is Duncan Robinson. If Duncan Robinson is hot and he's going crazy for them, they won't lose. When he scores 20, they win. I believe they're 7-4 this year when Duncan Robinson has 20 points. That just shows you how many times he has not scored 20 points this year. But he didn't score 20 in any of the games that they played against the Bulls this season. All wins. I believe he was 4 of 18 from 3.
Ew.
In those games against the Bulls combined total. So he really, truly struggled, and it showed, and it really hurt them. If he gets it going, then the Bulls are going to have a real issue out there. So I think both teams have guys that can really change the course of this game. They both have, some really important X factors.
Purdue?
So I think just for the Bulls, it's Herter.
Okay.
Because
I do a couple of votes for Herter here.
I do believe that the Heat will come out in a man-to-man, and if he can knock down a couple early threes, that stretches out their defense, and in my opinion now, that elevates the productivity and makes things easier for Coby. Because if you make the extra pass, now Coby has the ability to get to the rim. Right now we start stacking up the points in the paint.
Yes, sir.
And that constantly keeps the defense off guard, and then it makes things very difficult. For Miami, this will be a surprising one, I think, because the people are like, well, he's not an X factor, but I think the difference could be for them, Andrew Wiggins, as far as because I think he will be the guy that will be assigned to Giddy. So how effective can he be? Mm-hmm. Is he 100% in the sense of, where is he with that hamstring injury? Mm-hmm. And he's one of those guys, as well as he played with Golden State, he was still kind of underwhelming from his performance, right? But he does have those games where he steps up and you'll be like, that's why that guy was drafted, where he was, right? So if he has one of those nights where he is on, he is focused, he is engaged, honestly, the Bulls don't have anybody to guard him. And then if he can guard Giddy on the other end and not necessarily, shut him down, but keep him, Giddy could possibly get a triple-double, but 12 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. That, in my opinion, is not a very good night for Giddy.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. I don't think Wiggins played particularly well in that game last week, but I had forgotten, as you pointed out early on in this conversation, that he was coming off of a pretty substantial layoff with that hamstring. So will there be a more healthy and dangerous version of him?
Yeah.
That can be a problem for the Bulls. Go. What about you?
Yeah, I think Herter's a really good one. I think that changes how the Heat have to guard you. I think what you said about Vooch becoming one if the Heat goes zone is spot on, Will. I'm going to go a little bit more off the beaten path and go with Dalen Terry because I think...
Let's go!
Dalen!
Because I think I mentioned the Bulls' ability to guard the hero Bam actions. They don't really have a lot. Well, Lonzo's out. Io's out.
I heard that.
What's that?
No, I'm talking to Will.
But here's the problem. If you get to Dalen Terry, that means there's an issue.
Well, here's I don't necessarily disagree with that, but there's no Lonzo, there's no Trey, there's no Io. Giddy's potentially playing hurt. They are going to need to play someone off the bench. Patrick's not playing great this year. You can play one of the bigs, you can play both of them. You still need a backcourt player to come in there and not only defend, but give you a little something in transition. I think Dalen can do that, but he's really the only guy that at the point of attack can really make Hero uncomfortable. And so I think if he can play without fouling and if he can hassle Hero a little bit, and then if he goes 2 of 3 from 3, I think that would be huge for him, even if it's 15 minutes. I think he could play a really important role. I don't think he'll obviously be out there for 30 minutes, but I just think that he could have a couple of sequences that kind of swing the momentum in the Bulls' favor.
I
that's
agree.
where that saying came from. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all be happy at Christmas.
But if there's anybody on this Bulls squad who is healthy right now, who can give the Heat some trouble.
And Dalen might not be, by the way. He's got a calf injury.
Right.
So.
I mean, he did not practice today, Goat. That's correct.
He did not fully participate.
Not a full participant in practice. So that's a very important name to keep an eye on when tomorrow afternoon's injury reports start getting updated. It's Dalen Terry. But as far as getting the Heat out of what they want to be doing operationally in half-court offense, as far as the perimeter goes, Dalen is the best weapon I think the Bulls have. But the key phrase you said is without fouling.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for those of you watching on our streaming services. If you want the bonus coverage of our preview episode, head to allchgo.com. Because when you think about what Dalen can be as a defensive player in the NBA and the potential there, a lot of it is, trigger warning, Uncle Will, the motor, like the goon that exists in Dalen's brain, that could, especially with the stakes, Dalen, like a calf injury or not, is going to come into the United Center tomorrow being like, Billy, I am foaming at the mouth. I am ready to go. Let me at him.
Yeah, that's true.
That could get him in early foul trouble if he's going out to the perimeter to try and make game-changing level of plays on the defensive end.
Yeah.
Like, Dalen, we love the energy, but Tasmanian Devil, just don't foul.
No, you're absolutely right. It could work to his detriment as far as, that energy, because he hasn't truly learned to completely harness it, you know what I'm saying, and use everything for good. Like sometimes he's just like, oh, I'm out here. Yes, I hate you. We're going to dunk the ball. Pass it. And it's like, oh, that's a turnover. Ooh, that's a missed dunk. Ooh, that's an air ball 3. Ooh, that's 3 fouls. You know what I mean? Like it could really go that way, but he's just around. Honestly, I think he's been playing better lately. And he's just looked more competent out there on the floor to the point where Billy is starting to trust him. That's the biggest thing to let you know he's playing better is Billy is trusting him to, have the ball in his hands, and run certain parts of the offense, and get involved. We know what he can do defensively. Like, I think that's the key of what Goat said is he will be a disruptor defensively. He can get on your nerves. He can get on Tyler Hero's nerves. And it's just for how long will he be able to do that? Because you're right. If he can't stay on the floor, then it won't matter how good he is at it. He has to be able to stay on the floor and not bite for, certain shots and just kind of keep his head, about certain things, because they're going to try to use every single thing they can to get him, off rhythm and out of his game because they know the importance of this game as well.
And I think that's another big question I have about this game is just like, we talked about the injuries and who may not play. The Bulls, I mean, there's the whole thing about the 9 to 10 good players thing. Like they want to play a brand of basketball that involves a lot of people, that plays really quickly, that has more subs and plays a deeper rotation. And like, can you do that in a postseason game? If your season is on the line in a game 83 situation, like, can you afford to let THT or Dalen or Julian Phillips run wild for 5 minutes or not? Do you have to play Coby 44, 45 minutes tomorrow night and just try to, steal a couple with Dalen off the bench? And like, maybe you play 6 or 7 guys tomorrow. I don't know what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
But I do think like if you're looking at the margins and finding edges in places that you might not otherwise look. I mean, I don't know if Dalen gets in at all, but like I could also see him playing kind of a weirdly big role.
He's going to, if the Bulls can push the pace and keep the pace like they want to, those guys on the bench are going to have to play. But what you're now going to see is that Billy working those substitutions closer to timeouts so that you can use the timeout as a rest period as well for the guys that, I mean, I think
that's a good point.
If things, just in my opinion, go Billy's way and Billy gets what he wants, you're going to have Coby's going to probably be at 40, Giddy's going to be at 40, all right, Vuce is going to be at 40, and then you're going to see these, okay, we have these TV timeouts coming up, and this is now where, what we haven't talked about is the assistants. This is where the assistants come in about, you're looking at the clock and there's a dead ball situation. Hey, get so-and-so in because the next timeout's in 90 seconds, and then it's a 3-minute TV timeout, and then blah, blah, blah. All these things add up, right? And then there's the coach that's kind of doing plus or minus, and, hey, Patrick's been in there for basically now 3 minutes, and he's really had no impact. He hasn't done anything wrong, but he hasn't really had an impact. We got to get him out.
Yeah.
That's where the assistant coaches come in, where they're in Billy's ear. Why Billy's trying to control all the things in the game. These guys got to step up and do their part as well, because they're all assigned a specific task. And then Billy's job is to now take all this information, compute it, and then spit out the best answer. But I think that's where, these guys coming off the bench, Dalen and everybody, are going to have to play. And it might be one of those things. They're like going in the game. Billy's like, with the timeouts, I think I can get out of here with a 2-minute stretch.
Yeah.
But if all of a sudden Dalen hits a 3 because he comes in the game, if they're going to leave somebody open, it's going to be that guy.
Yeah.
And if he knocks down a 3, be like, oh, hold on a second. Let's give him a few extra, trips up, and not necessarily minutes, but let's give him a few extra trips up and down the floor. He shoots the next one and he misses it poorly. All right, let's go. It's just Billy's also got to be how much does he trust his gut when he's making all these decisions moving forward? Because just like in football, you script the first 10 plays and something happens or something doesn't work or somebody gets hurt and you're like, well, there goes the script. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing about how it's going to happen for both these guys. And so who has, the biggest onions to, if things aren't going well, to totally flip the script and basically say, hey, what we talked about for the last 3 days is out the window because it ain't working. We got to do the following. And to do the following, we first got to get ourselves out of the hole. And then once we get ourselves out of the hole, then we can really push the gas down with this new game plan. And that could be in the first half. That could be at halftime. I can see Spo basically doing something for 3 quarters and then at the start of the fourth quarter, totally do something random and the Bulls be like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. They'd be shocked about it. Let me ask you this way. And clearly what I'm about to ask you is not on the same level because one's a play-in and one's playoffs. But you've been in win or go home situations for sure. On the winning side, on the losing side, on some of them. But what is the mentality that you approach those games with as a player? Like, how do you walk into that? And is there butterflies? Is there fear? Are you just stoic? Is the focus change? Like, what is it like walking into those kind of situations?
No, the focus doesn't change. It's the one thing you realize though is that even though this isn't technically a playoff game, it is playoff atmosphere. And now every possession matters. It's not like you can have a first quarter where you got eight turnovers and you're like, we're fine because now the precedent is set. And if you do that, then the Heat just ramp up the pressure and it's going to become even more. And now when you look up at that scoreboard, an 8-point deficit is in all reality is more like 12 because possessions become so much more important, right? And the ability to get shots up at the rim. And there's always an outlier of something you didn't think was going to happen happens. Because these guys they're not just looking at the 3 games from this year, they're looking at games from last year, even though you had DeMar and Zach, but they're trying to figure out, not just the offenses, but what are the traits of Vooch? What are the traits of Coby? What are the traits of Giddy? I guarantee you they're looking at some film from Oklahoma City. What does this guy like to do in this position on the floor? Because also the scouting report goes from a 3-page scouting report to 15, right? And it's no longer, hey, we just focus on the 5 high-frequency plays. It's everything. So one thing you can watch is whoever the point guard is for the other team or the players, when a call is made, you can promise that everybody's yelling at the bench, telling them what's coming, what the play is. And then the coaches are yelling, this is like, if there's a play that's 3 down for the Bulls and, during a timeout, there's, hey, 3 down. And then Miami turns to their bench and the assistant coaches and go, hey, they're running 3 down. And they'll be like, well, that's the same as our 5 floppy. And bingo, right there, the defensive set is automatically called. So it's become so much harder. It's just like quicksand. It's you get sucked in because it's so much harder. It's really hard to explain because also mental fatigue becomes more than physical fatigue because of the chess game that's involved about what's going on from one timeout to the next, one quarter to the next.
We are out of time, unfortunately, but a lot of great stuff. Excited for Bulls Heat tomorrow.
Let's do it.
We will be here for a live pregame show at 6 p.m. Central. Before that, 6:30. What?
Should we make some picks?
Sure, if you want to.
Are we gonna?
Sure.
I think everybody's picking the Bulls, are they not?
I'm picking the Bulls.
Let's find out. I'm also picking the Bulls. Yeah.
Oh, it's meathead time now, sir. Yeah, Bulls.
Meathead hours?
Yeah.
I think they're gonna have the Heat are gonna have a really hard time containing the Bulls. Just transition and their pace. I think it's gonna be it's like easy for me to come up with some like extreme things that they can try out.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's actually gonna work. I would try them, but like I think it's gonna be hard for them to do that. And then, once the Bulls get going, and especially if this game is close down the stretch, they've been incredible in the clutch. The Heat have been a disaster. So I think they have a couple of strong advantages, and I think just like young up and coming team that's like trying to change the narrative about them, trying to prove people wrong, versus like a team that lost their best player, that had a 10-game skid, that lost in the first round last year, that just kind of feels like the season is over to them, to me at least, a little bit more.
I believe in history. I believe in facts. Fact, the Bulls won the first and lost the second play-in tournament game each of the last 2 years. I know that Miami is the team that knocked them out, but that was in game 2, not game 1.
Correct.
So I'm going to say that the Bulls win because that's going to be AK's getting past the bad boy Pistons. We finally beat the Heat in the play-in tournament. I know that's like AK deserves that happiness tomorrow. So let's go with it. And then they'll probably lose the second one because history is history and facts are facts.
Oh, Matt Peck.
Why did he have to go there?
Because he's Matt Peck.
You knew it was happening.
Yeah.
Guys, again, go read Goat's preview. It's a great little supplemental written word piece of play-in stuff that we didn't even get to in today's conversation. ALLCITY.com. Diehards only.
It's pretty good.
Sign up to become a diehard so you can read that stuff. Goat will be at the UC tomorrow. The other 3 of us, the other 4 of us will be here for pre and post game. Shout out to Katie. I know you don't have a mic, but what were the poll results real quick before we get out of here on the X Factor? Billy Donovan won X Factor. Wow.
Okay.
What a change in tune from this fan base.
I mean, seriously.
Wow, crazy, man.
Strike up the band. Change the tune.
Okay, well, 6 p.m. Central, we will be here. In the meantime, tonight, still plenty of stuff going on. Blackhawks in action right now. Up 2-1 on the Senators. Late first period. Our Blackhawks crew will be here for postgame. Yeah. Cubs still out west taking on the Padres. That first pitch is at 8:40 Central Time. Yeah. We'll have a late night Cubs CHGO Cubs postgame for y'all.
Yeah.
White Sox taking on the Athletics. 6:40 first pitch momentarily happening.
Yeah.
And also, one more quick shout out if you haven't done it yet. If you didn't watch live this afternoon, Katie did an awesome CHGO Sky draft recap after that exciting WNBA draft last night. Go give that a watch as well.
Awesome. Shout out to Steve in a good
mood.
We will have pregame at 6.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy your Tuesday night. We'll see you soon.
Bulls.
See you good.
Mood.
Yeah. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.